You ever have a night you can't erase? Not because of what you did right, but because of what you almost didn't see coming? This story isn't about heroism. It's about truth and how far people will go to bury it. It started like any other midnight shift in Washington state. But for Officer Ryan Kade, that night would turn him from a cop into a man caught between justice and survival. It was late November. Rain hammered the streets of Tacoma, a city where crime doesn't sleep. It waits. Ryan was on his third coffee, staring at the fog battling the streetlights. His body was tired, his mind wired. Across from him sat Detective Lena Morales, smarter, sharper, and 10 years deeper into the grind. "Last run before we clock out," she said, closing her notebook. Dispatch crackled. "Units, respond. Disturbance at Dock 32. Possible trespass." Ryan sighed. The docks again. Always at the end of shift. Lena grinned. "Maybe it's just the wind." Thing is, in Tacoma, the wind can sound like breathing if you listen too close. They drove through industrial silence. Cranes looming like iron skeletons. Cargo containers stacked like unspoken secrets. The smell of salt and diesel mixed with the rain. When they reached Dock 32, the chain gate hung open. No guards. No movement. Only the splash of water and the groaning creak of metal under the rain's weight. They stepped out into the deluge. Ryan's flashlight cut through the darkness, painting wet concrete in harsh white strokes. Lena moved beside him, hand resting on her holster, not drawn but ready. "Gate's been forced," Ryan observed, kneeling by the chain. Fresh scratches on the lock, still bright against the rust. "Recent. Recent as in tonight recent," Lena agreed, scanning the maze of containers ahead. "Where's security?" Ryan keyed his radio. "Dispatch, 7 Adam, 12. We're 10 to 23 at Dock 32. Requesting status on site security. Static." Then, 7 Adam, 12, no security scheduled tonight. "Dock's been inactive for 2 weeks. Shipping dispute." Lena and Ryan exchanged looks. An empty dock was an invitation in a city like this. Copper wire, tools, anything not bolted down, and some things that were. They moved deeper into the container yard. The stacks rose 3 high on either side, forming corridors of corrugated steel. Rain drummed on metal roofs like distant applause. Every shadow seemed to shift. Every sound echoed. "There," Lena whispered. A light, faint, flickering, coming from between 2 containers about 50 yards ahead. Not a flashlight. Too steady. Too orange. "Fire." Ryan's hand went to his radio again. "Wait." Lena held up a finger. "Listen." Underneath the rain, underneath the groan of shifting cargo, there was something else. Voices. Low, urgent. At least 2, maybe 3. They approached slowly, keeping to the shadows between containers. The light grew brighter. A camping lantern, Ryan could see now, sitting on a wooden crate. Around it, 3 figures hunched under a makeshift tarp shelter. But these weren't thieves stripping copper. One was a woman, maybe 60, wrapped in a soaked blanket. Another was younger, late 20s, holding a kid who couldn't have been more than 5. The third was a man, thin and weathered, trying to coax warmth from a can of Sterno. The woman looked up first. Her eyes went wide with fear. "Please," she said, her voice cracking. "Please, we're not doing anything wrong. We just needed somewhere dry." Ryan felt the shift in his chest. That moment when a call stops being about crime and becomes about something messy, something harder. Lena holstered her weapon fully, held up both hands. "It's okay. We're not here to hassle you. But this dock, it's not safe. All this equipment, no power, no heat. Safer than the tent we had," the younger woman said bitterly, pulling the child closer. "Someone set it on fire last week. Burned everything we had." Ryan stepped closer, angling his flashlight down so it wasn't blinding them. "There are shelters." "Full," the older man said flatly. "All of them. Every night. You wait in line 4 hours and they tell you, try again tomorrow." Lena crouched down to their level, rain streaming off her jacket. "How long have you been here?" 3 nights, the older woman admitted. "Security used to come by, but they stopped showing up. We thought maybe just until the rain stopped." In Tacoma, the rain never really stops. November just gives way to December, and the cold gets deeper. Ryan looked at Lena. She looked back. In that glance was 10 years of calls like this, the ones that didn't fit in boxes, that didn't have clean endings. The manual said trespassing. The manual said clear the property. The manual didn't say what to do when clearing the property meant sending a kid out into 38 degrees and rain that hadn't quit for 6 days. Give us a minute, Lena said, standing. She and Ryan walked back toward the patrol car, out of earshot. We could call social services, Ryan said, but he already knew the answer. At midnight, on a Tuesday, they'll take a report and tell us to bring them to the station if they're willing. You want to arrest them for trespassing? Ryan looked back at the lantern light flickering between the containers. No, me neither. Lena pulled out her phone, scrolled through contacts. I know someone at New Horizons Ministry. They run a cold weather shelter, small, but they don't turn people away. Let me see if they've got space. While she made the call, Ryan went back to the three under the tarp. Listen, he said, my partner's working on something, but I need to know, is there anyone else out here tonight? The older man nodded. 2 guys further down near Dock 34 said they were looking for work. They seemed off. Off how? Paranoid. Kept talking about someone following them. We kept our distance. Ryan's instincts prickled. What do they look like? One tall, one short. Both wearing dark hoodies. That's all I saw before they disappeared into the containers. Lena returned, phone in hand. Okay, New Horizons has 3 beds. It's not the Ritz, but it's warm and it's dry. And they'll feed you breakfast. I could drive you there right now. The younger woman looked like she might cry. Really? Really? Come on, let's get you out of here. As they helped pack up the meager belongings, a plastic bag of clothes. All units, be advised, we're getting a report of a break-in at a warehouse near Dock 34. Silent alarm just triggered. Possible 459 in progress. Ryan and Lena locked eyes. Dock 34. 2 guys. Dark hoodies. Paranoid. This night's not over yet, Lena muttered. Ryan nodded, helping the older woman into the back of the patrol car. It never is. They stepped out, flashlights slicing through the dark. Somewhere deep inside the warehouse, a low mechanical hum echoed. Ryan whispered, You hear that? Lena nodded. It's not the generators. Power's been cut. The closer they got, the stranger it felt. Inside, they found computers still running on backup batteries, monitors displaying encrypted files and data strings moving like living code. A small shipping crate sat open beside the machines. Inside the crate, bundles of hard drives wrapped in plastic, stamped with Federal Cyber Defense Division. Lena's face paled. These drives belong to the Bureau. What the hell are they doing here? Before Ryan could answer, movement flickered in the shadows, footsteps, then the hollow metallic click of a gun sliding off safety. Tacoma PD. Step out now. Ryan shouted. No answer. Only silence thick enough to choke on. Then a voice from behind a pillar. You don't want to be part of this. The voice was young, strained. Not the hardened criminal Ryan expected. There was fear in it. Real fear, the kind that makes people dangerous. Lena moved first, circling the crate, but the man was fast. In a flash, he bolted through the back exit, vanishing into the rain. Ryan chased him outside, shoes slamming against concrete slick with oil and rainwater. His flashlight beam bounced wildly as he ran, catching glimpses, dark hoodie, lean frame, moving with the desperate speed of someone who had everything to lose. Stop! Police! Ryan's voice was swallowed by the storm. The man vaulted over a low barrier, stumbled, recovered. Ryan was closing the distance. 20 feet. 15. His lungs burned in the cold air, rain stinging his face. They collided halfway across the dock, a full-body tackle that sent them both sprawling. The suspect's gun skidded across the wet concrete, spinning toward the edge before disappearing into the black water below with a distant splash. Ryan grabbed for his cuffs, but the man was thrashing, fighting with the strength of pure panic. You don't understand. They'll kill me. They'll kill both of us. Then stop fighting and talk to me. For a moment, their faces were inches apart. Ryan saw him clearly, mid-30s, gaunt, with the hollow-eyed look of someone who hadn't slept in days. A thin scar ran across his left cheek. His hands were shaking. "There's no time," the man gasped. He stopped struggling suddenly, reached into his jacket. Ryan tensed, ready for another weapon, but instead, the man pulled out a manila envelope, sealed with waterproof tape. "Take it, please." He shoved it into Ryan's coat pocket, his grip desperate. "Everything's in there. Names, accounts, proof. Get it to someone who can use it, someone outside the system. Outside the... What are you talking about?" Sirens wailed in the distance. "Back up, finally." But the man's eyes went wide with terror at the sound. No, you don't get it. Some of them, they're already here, already watching." He twisted hard, breaking Ryan's grip with a sudden, violent jerk. "Wait." But the man was already moving, scrambling toward the edge of the dock. Ryan lunged for him, fingers grazing fabric, catching nothing. "Don't." Too late. The man threw himself over the edge, plunging into the churning river below. Ryan hit the railing, flashlight beam stabbing down into the darkness. He caught a glimpse of the man surfacing 20 feet out, already being pulled by the current. Then nothing. Just black water, white foam, and rain. Damn it. Ryan keyed his radio. 7-12. Suspect in the water. Repeat. Suspect jumped into the river near Dock 34. "We need Marine unit now." Lena appeared beside him, breathing hard. "Did you see where?" "He went under. Current took him." Ryan's hand went instinctively to his pocket, felt the envelope there. Waterproof. Deliberately prepared. "Lena, he gave me something. Said people were watching. Said some of them were already here." Red and blue lights washed over the dock as backup arrived. 3 patrol cars, an SUV. But as the officers climbed out, Ryan felt something cold settle in his chest. One of the responding officers was Detective Mark Voss, 15-year veteran, solid reputation. But Voss wasn't looking at the river. He was looking directly at Ryan's coat pocket. By the time backup arrived, there was no sign of him. Only the envelope soaked but intact. Marine unit showed up 40 minutes later. They searched for 2 hours, sweeping the river with spotlights and thermal imaging. Found nothing. No body. No trace. "Current strong tonight," the Marine unit sergeant said, shaking his head. "If he went under, he could be a mile downstream by now. We'll keep looking at first light." But Ryan knew they wouldn't find him. Something in the way the man had jumped, controlled, purposeful, told him this wasn't suicide. It was escape. Or maybe, Ryan thought darkly, it was something worse. A message. Back at the warehouse, crime scene was photographing everything. The computers had been shut down. Remotely, the text said, right after Ryan had chased the suspect outside. Someone had wiped them clean, triggered a kill switch. The hard drives in the crate were still there, but when they tried to access them, every single one was encrypted with military-grade security. "We'll need federal help to crack these," the evidence text said. "FBI, maybe an SA." Lena caught Ryan's eye. Federal help. That's what the suspect had warned against. Captain Morris arrived just after 2 in the morning, took one look at the scene, and pulled them aside. "What did you see in there before the computers went dark?" Ryan hesitated. The envelope felt like it was burning through his pocket. Files. Encrypted data. It looked like financial records, maybe communication logs. It was moving too fast to read clearly. And the suspect. Male, 30s, dark clothing. Armed. He ran when we identified ourselves. Morris studied them both. That's what goes in the report. Understand? Nothing about federal drives, nothing about what you might have seen on those screens. This is now a federal investigation. They're sending someone from Seattle in the morning. "Captain," Lena started. "That's how it is, Detective. We secure the scene, we document what we found, and we let the people with the right clearances handle it." Morris's voice was firm, but his eyes were saying something else. Something that looked a lot like warning. "You two did good work tonight. Now go home. Get some sleep. You'll need it for the debriefing tomorrow." As they walked back to their patrol car, Ryan felt eyes on them. Not just the other officers, but cameras he couldn't see, watchers in the darkness beyond the floodlights. The envelope in his pocket felt heavier with every step. "We need to look at what's in there," Lena murmured, barely audible over the rain. "Not here," Ryan replied. "Not anywhere they might be listening." Ryan thought about the man's terror, his desperate warnings, the way he'd chosen drowning over capture. Whoever he was running from, whoever he thought was already here. They drove in silence through empty streets, rain hammering the windshield. Ryan kept checking the rearview mirror. Once, he thought he saw headlights following them, but they turned off before he could be sure. At a red light, Lena finally spoke. "That envelope. We open it, there's no going back." Ryan's hands tightened on the wheel. Maybe we're already past that point. The light turned green. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled across the sound. And in Ryan's pocket, wrapped in waterproof tape and soaked with river water, an envelope full of secrets waited to break everything open. Back at the precinct, Ryan and Lena didn't go to their desks. They went to the evidence locker in the basement, the old one, with cameras that had been broken for 6 months and a maintenance request that never seemed to get approved. Lena locked the door behind them. Ryan pulled the envelope from his jacket, still damp despite the waterproof tape. Under the single, buzzing fluorescent light, they pried it open. Inside lay a USB drive, wrapped in wax paper, and a note, handwritten in tight, urgent script. Proof inside. "Don't trust anyone wearing a badge above yours." Ryan turned the drive over in his hand. It was unmarked, commercial grade, the kind you could buy at any electronics store. But the weight of it felt like holding a live grenade. "We could turn this in," Lena said, but there was no conviction in her voice. "Chain of evidence. Follow procedure." "To who? Captain Morris? He already told us to back off. Federal agents who are coming in the morning." Ryan looked at the note again. "Above yours." That meant everyone. Sergeants, lieutenants, captains. Anyone with rank. Anyone with connections. The guy jumped into a river rather than let whoever's behind this catch him. That tell you how far up this goes. Lena pulled out her personal laptop, the one she kept in her locker, never connected to the precinct network. We know what we're dealing with. Then we decide." Ryan plugged in the drive. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a password prompt appeared, but it auto-filled some kind of preset access key embedded in the drive itself. Files began populating the screen. They ran the files. What they saw made their hands shake. Back at the precinct, Ryan and Lena didn't go to their desks. They went to the evidence locker in the basement, the old one, with cameras that had been broken for 6 months and a maintenance request that never seemed to get approved. Lena locked the door behind them. Ryan pulled the envelope from his jacket, still damp despite the waterproof tape. Under the single, buzzing fluorescent light, they pried it open. Inside lay a USB drive, wrapped in wax paper, and a note, handwritten in tight, urgent script. Proof inside. "Don't trust anyone wearing a badge above yours." Ryan turned the drive over in his hand. It was unmarked, commercial grade, the kind you could buy at any electronics store. But the weight of it felt like holding a live grenade. "We could turn this in," Lena said, but there was no conviction in her voice. "Chain of evidence. Follow procedure." "To who? Captain Morris? He already told us to back off. Federal agents who are coming in the morning." Ryan looked at the note again. "Above yours." That meant everyone. Sergeants, lieutenants, captains. Anyone with rank. Anyone with connections. The guy jumped into a river rather than let whoever's behind this catch him. That tell you how far up this goes. Lena pulled out her personal laptop, the one she kept in her locker, never connected to the precinct network. We know what we're dealing with. Then we decide. Ryan plugged in the drive. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a password prompt appeared, but it auto-filled some kind of preset access key embedded in the drive itself. Files began populating the screen. They ran the files. What they saw made their hands shake. Dozens of folders. Hundreds of documents. Encrypted contracts with headers like Project Nightfall and Cascade Defense Initiative. Digital bank logs showing transfers in the millions, sometimes tens of millions, bouncing between accounts in the Caymans, Singapore, Luxembourg. Offshore transfers laundered through shell corporations with names like Apex Security Solutions and Redstone Cyber Group, all tied to a secretive military contractor called Cerberus Strategic Systems, a company that supposedly provided cybersecurity services to federal agencies. But the contracts were wrong. The numbers didn't match the work. $50 million for network security assessment, that took 3 weeks. $80 million for threat analysis consultation, with no deliverables listed. It was a funnel. Money pouring in from defense budgets, intelligence appropriations, homeland security spending, billions over the past 4 years, flowing through dummy cybersecurity firms that existed only on paper. And at the center of it, appearing again and again in email chains, authorization memos, and wire transfer approvals, Senator Alan Frost, Washington's rising political star, known for fighting government waste. Lena scrolled through an email thread, her face going pale. This is from 2 years ago. Frost's chief of staff coordinating with Cerberus executives about routing the DHS allocation through secondary channels. They're not even trying to hide it. They just never thought anyone would see these files. Ryan opened another folder, photos. Screenshots of bank statements under Frost's name, personal accounts in Geneva and Monaco with balances in the 8 figures, property deeds for estates in Montana and the Virgin Islands, a yacht registered in Panama. This isn't just corruption, Ryan said quietly. This is systematic. This is organized. He's been bleeding the federal budget for years. And someone inside his operation turned whistleblower. Lena pointed at a subfolder labeled Insurance. Inside were audio recordings, time-stamped and labeled. She clicked one at random. Frost's voice, unmistakable. That smooth, confident tone he used in press conferences. The beauty of classified appropriations is that nobody asks questions. Intelligence budgets, cyber defense contracts, it's all black box. Congress approves the numbers and the money disappears. As long as we keep the threat level high, as long as we keep them scared, they'll keep writing checks. Another voice, older, gravelly. What about oversight? Oversight is 3 people who rubber stamp my recommendations because I sit on armed services. We own the process. Marcus, we own the pipeline. Ryan stopped the recording. His mouth was dry. That's Senator Frost openly admitting to fraud, to theft of federal funds. That's enough to end his career. And a lot of careers. Lena looked at him. This is why the guy at the dock was terrified. This is why he jumped. Because if Frost goes down, he takes half of Washington with him. They spent another hour going through files, documenting what they found, copying the most damning evidence to a separate drive. Every new folder was worse than the last. Payments to shell companies that trace back to Frost's family members. Contracts awarded to firms that existed for 6 months, collected millions, then dissolved. A paper trail that showed deliberate, methodical looting of taxpayer money on a scale that made Ryan's head spin. We need to get this to someone, Lena finally said. A prosecutor, a federal judge, someone outside Frost's sphere. Who? Name one person with authority who isn't potentially connected to him. Ryan gestured at the screen. He's on committees that control budgets for justice, FBI, DHS. He approves appointments. He influences who gets promoted, who gets funding. This level of corruption, it protects itself. That night, their discovery triggered a series of actions that neither could control. It started small. At 3:47 a.m., Ryan's personal phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have left it alone. At 4:15 a.m., the precinct's server system crashed. Not just slowed, completely offline. The IT department scrambled, but everything was locked out. Looks like a cyber attack, the night text said, bewildered. Someone hit us with something sophisticated. At 5:30 a.m., Lena tried calling a contact she had at the FBI Seattle field office, a straight shooter she'd worked with on a task force 3 years ago. The call connected, rang once, then got rerouted to a generic voicemail. She tried again. Same thing. A third time, disconnected entirely. They're intercepting, she said, staring at her phone. They're actively blocking outbound calls. At 6 a.m., Ryan went home to shower and change. He lived in a small apartment in North Tacoma, 3rd floor, street view. As he approached, he noticed a white panel van parked across the street. Engine off, windows tinted dark. It hadn't been there when he left for shift yesterday. He walked past it, not looking directly, but catching details in his peripheral vision. Commercial plates. No company logo. A small antenna on the roof, not standard. Surveillance. Within hours, their precinct servers went offline completely. Calls to federal contacts were rerouted or failed entirely. Surveillance vans appeared silently across the street from Ryan's apartment. By noon, there were two. One white, one dark blue. They never moved, never parked anywhere else. Just watched. Lena called him from a payphone outside a grocery store. Old school, untraceable. They're my place too. Black sedan, 2 occupants. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore. They want us to know, Ryan said. They want us scared. It's working. He realized then they were the ones being watched now. Not by criminals. Not by some street-level operation they could outmaneuver. By people with resources, with reach, with the kind of power that could make evidence disappear and witnesses recant. By people who could make 2 cops in Tacoma vanish without anyone asking the right questions. Ryan looked out his apartment window at the vans below. Somewhere in one of those vehicles, someone was watching him back. Recording. Listening, maybe. Building a file. We can't go back to the precinct, he said into the phone. The moment we do, they'll find a reason to confiscate our personal devices. Search our lockers. They'll find the copy we made. So what do? Ryan thought about the man at the dock, the terror in his eyes, the way he'd chosen the river over capture. He thought about the billions stolen, the system corrupted, the machine that protected itself by crushing anyone who threatened it. We find someone who can't be bought, he said. Someone whose job is to ask questions people don't want answered. A journalist? A journalist with a lawyer and a big enough platform that making them disappear would cause more problems than it solves. Ryan pulled the curtain closed, blocking the view from below. We go public. All of it. We burn it down before they can bury it. That'll end our careers. Maybe. But at least we'll still have careers. At least we'll still be breathing. Silence on the line. Rain starting again outside, washing over the city that never quite slept, never quite woke. Finally, Lena's voice, steady and sure. Okay, let's do it. Ryan hung up. He grabbed the USB drive from where he'd hidden it, inside a box of cereal in his kitchen, wrapped in plastic, and tucked it into his jacket. The vans were still outside, still watching, but they were about to find out that watching wasn't enough. Not when the truth was already moving. Lena met him at dawn at an empty diner off the highway. You know what this is, right? She said. Ryan nodded. A hit disguised as cleanup. They planned to leak the files, but minutes later, black SUVs rolled in. Agents in unmarked suits stepped out, deliberate, calm, confident. Lena whispered, "We've got one shot." Ryan slipped the USB into a sugar jar moments before the agents entered. The lead one smiled like they already knew everything. Officer Kade. Detective Morales. You've been busy. They were questioned for hours, released with warnings that sounded friendlier than threats, but cut deeper. When they returned, the diner had burned down. No trace of a jar. No weaknesses. 3 months later, Lena turned at her badge. She moved south, started teaching criminal justice to kids who'd never been shot at. Ryan stayed. He patrols quieter streets now, the kind people think are safe. Every now and then, he sees black SUVs idling too long at red lights. And he knows they're reminders. They're watching to make sure he remembers. But sometimes when the night gets still, he still hears the hum from Dock 32 and remembers the whisper of that man's voice. You don't want to be part of this. And Ryan learned something that night. Something carved into his bones. The truth isn't buried. It's guarded. And justice? Justice is just about who's left standing to tell the story.